All right, good afternoon, everyone. This is the Committee for Persons with Disabilities. This is the July regular meeting, and we'll call the meeting to order. We're going to go to agenda item 2, statement. Do we have any statement, just cause, and/or consideration for requests to participate remotely, if applicable?
We have none.
None. Thanks.
Michelle.
We are on agenda item number 3, and we are going to vote on the June meeting minutes. Hello, Michelle. I'm so sorry.
Let Chair turn it around for you. Yeah, trying Susie. Okay.
So just to reiterate, we are on agenda item number 3, and we are going to vote on the June meeting minutes. Do I have a motion?
I move to approve the June meeting minutes.
No second.
A second.
Perfect, thank you.
Unless somebody, I should remember somebody.
All those in favor, say aye. Those opposed? Those abstaining? No, perfect, thank you.
May I ask where somebody can find the Zoom link to this meeting from the public?
On the public website. I also have it on the minutes now, and I think I have it on the agenda. Okay, thank you.
All right, we're going to move to agenda item number 4, non-agenda comments. Members of the public may address a county issue not elsewhere on this agenda. Each speaker may have up to 2 minutes. Speakers may be limited to less time if several speakers have requested to speak on the same issue. The Committee for Persons with Disabilities is prohibited by the Brown Act from acting on or voting on any issue that is not already on the agenda unless deemed to be urgent. So do we have any non-agenda public comments? Joshua said no.
Oh, no.
You sure? Going once, going twice? Okay.
Your introduction.
Do we have anybody online that has a public
I have
comment?
someone that wants to join, but struggling to figure out how. I just sent the county link.
Tell them we hope they can join us.
I did.
Are they on a phone?
I'm not sure. She's been trying to join for a while, but I do a terrible job of explaining how.
You can give her my cell phone.
Thank
number.
you.
Yeah, Katie could describe it.
Thank you so much.
All right, so we are going to move to agenda item number 5, which is our disability rights and behavioral health services. And Jessica.
Yep, you got it.
So if you remember, it was.
Which one? The bigger corner, this one? July 17th, that's today? Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay,
So I think you had written notes on yours.
I don't think I wrote notes, but we talked about it.
Okay. We had talked about, the qualifying a checklist, and then we talked about, how you wanted to kind of
I remember.
okay,
Thank you.
you're welcome.
So we talked about, that we would like to table the qualifying a disability checklist so that Carolyn and I can reframe it a little bit better and bring it to the next meeting. We discussed how the ADA request form for IHSS clients isn't specifically a behavioral health services issue, more of a county aging and independence concern, but because it's my concern, was my primary concern that I brought to the group, it's under my presentation time. I know that I missed that very important IHSS meeting, which I apologize for, and appreciate them coming and the committee communicating. I'm not sure if it resulted in actual improvements to the formal Americans with Disabilities Act reasonable modification process for people who have been approved for services initially and then also annually. But that would be my interest for a way to move forward and, you know, potentially wrap it up into something that we can just check in on every once in a while. So perhaps we could address that as a future, or table it or address it as a future item. Anyone wants to give me guidance on that? And then as far as the disability rights and behavioral health services, I think the focus is really around what we've come to learn is that our behavioral health services does their own internal ADA compliance, but we're not sure what their training or skill sets are specific to that duty, which is a very important and specific set of understandings and responsibilities. But wanting to help grow a more specific ADA engagement process that behavioral health services utilizes in all of their services as well as all of their contracted services. Right now, to my knowledge, the behavioral health services contracts do mandate compliance to all state and federal disability laws. But there's not clear guidance on what that means, and there's not a clear engagement process and coordination process. And there's also not compliance auditing for those contractors in terms of ADA that's outside of physical accessibility and vision and hearing impairment. There doesn't seem to be an ADA reasonable modification process or guidance similar to the way Human Resources or the JAN network would address people with behavioral health disabilities. There doesn't seem to be a process for that in behavioral health services right now. And mental health disabilities are an equal and very significant part of the work we do here. It's mental and physical limitations. And we're a little heavy in the physical limitations. And then with that, there's been a restructuring of behavioral health services around Prop 1, the Mental Health Services Act, as well as Care Court, which we've already implemented, are in full swing of implementation. There is not an intact ADA reasonable modification or coordination process within the Care Court process right now. Outside of the courts have an ADA accommodation process in which a person can ask the courts for accommodation for participating in their hearing, but that's not the same thing as having ADA or fair housing coordination with their behavioral health services clinicians, the public defender's office, and the behavioral health contracted Care Court Case Management Act teams and, you know, every other part of the Care Court process. And then specifically, we also have SB 43, which is in its readiness phase, which is the year leading up to January 2025. It's come quickly, and there have been a number of stakeholder meetings around being ready for SB 43, which means ready to implement. It has huge implications for our law enforcement, has huge implications for deaths in custody, which is a very serious issue our county is facing right now. People who are awaiting their due process in the courts who have disabilities or behavioral health conditions, not surviving their, you know, hearing dates. And So we really want to be doing all we can in alternatives to incarceration and in those interactions with law enforcement on the scene that can help make sure that we're providing as many alternatives to bringing people with disabilities into the jails whenever possible. You know, obviously, there are times when you're, you know, it is serious enough, but when we're talking about offenses or scenarios in which it can be safe to defer somebody from being brought into the jails with disabilities, and that includes certain mental health disabilities. And I think that the biggest thing that I can emphasize here is that there's been a stakeholder process that the county has put forth at the, I don't know, demand's not the right word, but mandate from the Board of Supervisors. And we, as a committee, were not included in those stakeholder meetings. There was a very small representative with lived experience in those committees. And I know that there's been some requests from the Behavioral Health Advisory Board members to have a better engagement process for things like this. And, you know, there's best practices around making sure that every stakeholder's voice that wants to be included is included. So if there's anything that we could do to improve being involved in the last round of stakeholder meetings as a committee, or just having an opportunity to weigh in on the readiness for January 2025 implementation. In my experience doing some limited advocacy in the community, I'm experiencing that the things that come along with SB 43 are already happening in a lot of cases. So. And one of those is forced medical care, which is something that I know that this group feels pretty passionate about. And it's a challenge as well that was brought up in the stakeholder meetings where the nurses and hospital groups were saying, we don't know if our people are going to be willing to force. The example that was used was the kidney dialysis. We don't know if our people are going to be ready to force somebody to receive kidney dialysis because they're on a hold for potentially having a severe substance use disorder or a serious mental illness, and therefore have been deemed unable to get themselves what's called adequate mental care. So the two things that have been added, just to remind everybody, to SB 43, definition of grave disability, that's different from prior to SB 43, is that grave disability means that previously it meant due to somebody's mental health condition, they could not provide adequately for their own food, shelter, or clothing. Now we've added severe substance use disorder, which is a criteria of 6 out of 10 or 11, or 7 out of 10 or 11. I've heard a couple different criterias, but in which a person is known to meet all these criteria, be defined to have a severe substance use disorder, and that substance use disorder alone can qualify them for forced holds, which starts as the 72-hour 5150 hold, moves to the 14-day 5250 hold, and so on and so forth. And part of the restructuring of the mental health services is the rebuilding and the funding of more locked treatment facilities to be able to meet the demand of SB 43. So obviously the implications for people with physical and mental disabilities, as well as people who are medically fragile with other co-occurring conditions, there's a lot to discuss. Thank you.
All right, anybody have any questions?
Yeah, Michelle. Several things. So you said that I'm unclear of, you used the example that they had used of kidney dialysis. How is that connected to the substance abuse? And when you also said that there was a conversation about whether or not the medical facilities, which I assume is our hospitals here, are going to be willing to, you're saying that that is already happening. Are they doing it based on SB 43?
Okay, so great questions. I realized that I lapsed in completing what I was saying about the new definition of grave disability. So it adds severe substance use disorder as a standalone criteria for whether someone has to meet their food, clothing, and shelter needs. but it also adds on to additional criteria that are being able to provide for one's personal safety, which is a huge issue because we're trying to enhance the understanding around disability victimization for adults with disabilities. So we're gonna have a great challenge there when we're asking, is this person responsible for the fact that they're a dependent adult experiencing homelessness or an adult with disabilities experiencing homelessness, however we grade that? Are they not being protected under the senior and disability victimization policies? Or are they somehow responsible for the victimization that's happening to them? Because we know people with disabilities are the highly victimized across all abuse categories. It's also a very slippery slope when we talk about self-neglect versus are people being fully accommodated and given the accesses to community services they're entitled to. So to answer your question, if somebody is taken in and held on an involuntary psychiatric hold, and that because they've been deemed, and these were a lot of the examples used in the law enforcement SB 43 stakeholder group conversations, was the medical aspect of finding somebody that either has a severe substance use disorder or a serious mental illness, and deeming that they haven't taken adequate care of their own medical needs because let's say they have a wound and or they're not going to their dialysis treatment regularly, then that hold can include making them be compliant in whatever the medical, whatever is deemed, which is also quite subjective, that they're adequately meeting their medical needs. Does that
So,
answer your
so is
question?
the safety separate from the medical needs?
Yes, so there's,
Okay.
yes, exactly. There's 5 reasons now why, there's 5 criteria of what a person with a mental illness or a severe substance use disorder, they have to be able to meet their own food, clothing, housing, personal safety, and adequate medical care needs, or they can be held on a hold that starts at 72 hours and grows from there. And during that time in the hospital, they don't have the right to say no to, say, wound care. And I saw that used under a 72-hour hold for a person who wanted to work with a different care provider than the one that was insisting on her receiving the care from. And a 72-hour hold was placed and a medical procedure was done on that hold. That was something she wanted to handle differently and voluntarily.
And then the second part of the question was, are they doing the forced medical based on SB 43?
They did not. They did it based off of our current grave disability. But it just shows what it's gonna look like when it is done regularly. I mean, I think there are cases where it's already done right now. And this is something law enforcement talked about at these stakeholder groups, was a lot of what we're talking about doing is already being done now, because we don't necessarily have patrol officers that know how to differentiate between a serious mental illness and a severe substance use disorder at that moment in that interaction. So there's been a lot of ways that people have been put on hold, maybe when they were under the, severe substance use, but instead we're held under mental illness. And when you're held under mental illness, you are supposed to have a lot of voluntary rights, but we know that there are challenges with that.
So is it a blood test, a quick yes, no?
No, the severe substance abuse, no. It's a set of criteria that's like 6 out of 10 criteria, and it's very hard for any average patrol person or caseworker or homeless outreach worker to know. But if there's substantial history with a law enforcement agency or a homeless outreach worker or a caseworker, they can, or county behavioral health services, they can build a case.
More likely than not.
Yes, and it's a very, very minimal burden. It's like not clear and compelling. It's like any reasonable suspicion. I know we have to move on.
Jessica, for the ADA request form for in-home supportive services, would it help if I sent you the link to the video? And then you could watch the presentation, and then maybe if you had follow-up questions, you could also contact that individual with any clarifying questions.
Thank you so much.
Sure.
I had a couple of thoughts about the, uh, disability stuff. Um, the ADA, how I understand, is it's complaint driven. So there's nobody going around checking ADA compliance. There's nobody being paid to do that. And it's an unfunded mandate, as we all know. And it's complaint driven, so that means that there has to be something that's gone wrong or deeply so by the individual. And then you push that forward. Ultimately, a lawsuit is really the only way to really stop somebody in a severe issue. Otherwise, you issue a complaint like to Todd, and I'd say, I can't get in the bathroom, blah, blah, blah. Here it is. Here's the date, the time, the location. And he would deal with it, send it to facilities, whatever. So just a cursory understanding from my point of view that it's not like you can anticipate an accommodation, as we know. Everybody's individualized. Everybody needs different things for different issues based on disability, what the issue is, blah, blah, blah. So that's one thing, and I feel like the concern for me with qualifying a disability checklist, and I know that's perhaps to come, is
I can totally help clarify this. Everything
Yeah.
you're saying is so right on. I think perhaps we should rename that because it's not actually, the name is not explaining what it was developed to mean. What we're talking about is that there are certain welfare and institution codes. There are certain legal penal codes, Penal Code 368, which is senior, elder and dependent adult and persons with disabilities abuse. There's elder and dependent adult department to the district attorney's office. There's so it's really about qualifying a dependent adult checklist, but there is some legislative momentum and certainly outrage in the disability community over the word dependent. We've talked a lot about that, but this is a way that average prosecutor, average patrol person and their lieutenant or sergeant, average dispatch person, average adult protective services worker, average community person with a disability, case workers, homeless services providers. Nobody knows what a dependent adult is, and there is no criteria or universal standard for how any of the stakeholders in this conversation know whether a person qualifies for the special protections and special considerations afforded by law to people with disabilities because of the vulnerability and the high likelihood of crime and civil rights violations. It's really around this completely confusing term, dependent adult.
which they're trying to eliminate. So why wouldn't we just go to the ADA definition?
Because the average stakeholders have no idea what to do with it. Like if a patrol person is interacting with a person with disability, they have no policy right now that tells them, how am I supposed to even figure out if this person has one? If they tell me they have one, how do I know if they're lying? The only way the sheriff currently can for sure know if somebody's entitled to these legal protections is if they're registered with the regional center, which is a very small portion of people who should be protected under these laws. Most people are not developmentally disabled before the age of 18.
Right.
Don't they have to start with the assumption that if someone says it, that it is, and disprove it?
That would be great, but all I'm saying is the average patrol person out there right now doesn't have any single instructions on how to do that part of the job.
Well, I think there are trainings. I don't know. I guess I'm concerned that under this agenda category, we've lumped behavioral services, IHSS, the whole new, Prop 1 stuff, and that it's very mushy to me. I
We're
don't have
trying to
anything-
unlump today.
Yeah, I'm trying to grapple with what the heck is the issue and how do we address it as a committee?
Yes. Qualifying a disability checklist needs to be under the DA's office, and we need to change it from disability checklist to, special protections and special considerations under the laws. Because that's what we're looking at.
So you're talking about really a quick reference
Yes.
document or training for somebody in the field,
Yeah.
right? That would say, that would be able to, words and questions would be able to sort of click off to say this person
Could be.
could be able to be eligible for these protections, and I'm going to proceed accordingly.
Beautiful.
But it should be the other direction. If they say they are, it needs to start there. Until
I
they
agree
list
with
through-
you, but now working with law enforcement for a long time, I know that they need to have a set of policies and procedures, clear guidance of what they have to do or should do, and there needs to be a bulletin, there needs to be training, and that language needs to be worked with APS, prosecutors,
What's APS?
adult protective services.
Okay.
Because, and I know I don't want to go too off the deep end, but here is a really important gap. Adult Protective Services considers a dependent adult to be somebody over the age of 60. The Penal Code and Welfare and Institutions Act qualify a person 65 and up. So law enforcement is very, very familiar with elder abuse, very familiar. They look at the ID, are you 65 or older? It's already moved towards a potential elder abuse investigation and prosecution. If you're a disabled or dependent adult, there is absolutely no way to figure out if you qualify and if you're going to be moved into it.
And I will tell you, as somebody who's going through that right now, the judge in my, in the case, doesn't understand how I'm a dependent adult. So as I see it, these two checklists, actually, I think we were, hold on a second, I think we're separating the two lists. One list, we were gonna craft for the post certification that the DA had asked about the last time she was here. So what my thought was, is this list that I created should be geared towards post cert, right? That would be a great start. And then following that should be the special protections documents. And these don't have to be the same thing. We don't have to do one thing, right? So my feeling is the post cert is pretty close to done. At least as a starting point to add to post certification. And then the second piece, which does not have to commingle with post cert, is what Jessica is talking about for the qualifying and special protection list or document or that piece.
Well, that would though be specific to post certification.
Right, but because it has sort of two different things, let them decide where they want to put it at.
I'm just saying that you can't talk about the Peace Officer Standard and Trainings Commission if that's, or are we talking about CERT, Community Emergency Response?
No, we're talking, you had it right there.
This is training with
Right.
the Peace Officer Standard.
Right.
We can't do anything effectively with them if we don't know how anybody is entitled to the special protections and special considerations if they're an adult with disabilities.
Right, and my thought was, and I could be totally wrong, is that this list that I created
Okay.
is different than the list that you're creating.
Oh, so this is for the certification trainings? Great, okay, just
Right,
didn't
so
know
that's
that.
why I thought, instead of
Yeah.
recrafting and trying to make this list work for this, let's do two different things.
Okay, so I want to get back to Susan
Okay.
and with what you just said. Susan, you nailed it with the disability rights and behavioral health services. We're moving the ADA part for IHSS out of this category. and we're moving the qualifying a disability checklist, which is meant to address how are people included in the special protections and special considerations afforded by laws to adults.
And I think we have to be extremely careful with our words. And if we don't want the word becoming adult floating around, then we should not be using it ourselves. And so, I don't want to be a word cop, but I think that we have to focus on what we want, not on what we don't want.
I agree, and we have to explain it in the language that's being used right now.
Absolutely. And so for me, you start at what Michelle said, which is, I am the individual. If I say I have a disability under the ADA, then that should be the starting point.
Right.
And I can't believe that all the police and all the sheriffs don't have, because I believe they have had disability awareness training
Yeah.
on specific issues.
Yes,
So I think that it's not, we're not starting from zero.
we're not, one of my areas of study has been police policy practices, bulletins and trainings,
Yeah,
and especially in our county.
good.
And,
Good.
it's extremely limited. It's very focused on what is
Yes,
available is
yes.
very limited.
It is,
But what you do have is autism,
yes,
dementia,
yes,
Alzheimer's, vision and hearing, some mobility, even though it's pretty poor.
exactly.
Because I've been in some trainings where it's don't underestimate somebody in a wheelchair and showing all the different hidden places you could put a weapon in a wheelchair,
Oh, yeah.
right? So,
I know them all.
yeah, yeah,
Just
so,
kidding.
yeah, no, you're amazing.
So,
Yeah,
so
so
that's
I'll back to
good,
you.
and I appreciate that you're gonna separate out stuff, because, it's not focused for me, and I know you're cleaning up, and I appreciate that. I also wanna, the big picture, I really appreciate, like, a major training or a policy, or looking at unifying, so that we're informing people of things that, like best practice, that already exists. So we're not coming at them with all new stuff and dumping it on them, and then saying, here's a big, like the invisible disability. That is a big list, and it's not everything, which is the dilemma when you start saying, well, this, and this. Well, what about this? Which I know is hard, but the individual hopefully can be empowered to speak what that is. And you can't always know what your accommodation might be, but some people do know, this is what I need.
And I think we're looking at it, at least I am, and I think because Jessica and I just had an hour or two conversation before this meeting, just talking about this. I feel like it's going to be our contribution. It's just our little piece to it, which isn't the end all be all. Right.
Oh, I understand.
Okay,
Of
no, I
course.
didn't, I just, yeah,
Of course.
yeah.
Of course, and I think we also, and this may not sit well with everyone, but I know we represent all people with all disabilities in the county, our committee. And sometimes it's not inappropriate if you've had a personal experience to bring it up, because there's probably 100 or 200 people behind you that have also battled. But I think we have to be careful that we don't just get one-sided.
Yes.
I'm not here representing people with disabilities and wheelchairs. Really, I am one, but there's broad needs. So I think what we're doing is great. I just want to continue that we don't have just personal agendas, not that we have, We've had legitimate issues. But we have to think of the bigger picture sometimes of, this represents a huge thing. Like behavioral health stuff is huge. And everybody knows that. And that's why I said last time about disability rights. Because there are leaders in the state or county or city that have oftentimes vetted that issue, heard about the complaints beforehand, and can have a much, so if we get on there, then, enforce here. Here's a good way to look at it, as opposed to a small committee going, well, what about this? So that we're joining forces, the collaboration. So what we're doing with the DA is huge and powerful.
And I know a lot of us like have our own advocacy
Yes.
networks and things like that,
Yes.
and that's one of the great gifts we bring
It
is that each one of us, is, and I can't wait till we're growing this group to represent more of the disability
I
community. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
gonna be amazing. I know though that I've been invited in this group many times, like I know I can't call around places and say I'm calling about committee business, but I can call and I can engage in topics and I can bring it back to the group and I can liaison, and I do. I mean, I am as closely connected as I can be with my medical and trauma limitations to DRC. I don't know how to get them here or us there, but I'm also doing the same with the ARC, like,
Can you watch that with us?
I'm
What
so
is
sorry,
DRC?
Michelle, I'm so sorry.
What is
Um,
Disability rights.
I'm so sorry. So like, yes, I'm doing my best. I'm on an anti-hate crime coalition. That's a partnership of the DA and the Attorney General's office and the DOJ. And I do very much cross network this work because I'm only a me expert, and then the little bits that I see in the world, and I don't everything I do needs to be guided by people who have been in this fight longer, people who have different skill sets. So if you guys can help me be a better liaison, I will definitely give what I can to that because I'm doing my best to communicate with like partners like the ARC and carry out the Blue Envelope project with the sheriffs, like out in the community and in the homeless community. But I'm not, I could really always use guidance and how to be a
Well,
better
you're
leader.
great. I think all of us are really, we're fine. We're good. We all have, lots of skills.
Yeah.
All right, so, Michelle?
So, a couple comments to what Susan said. So one is, my recollection is that SB 43 actually does come with some money. It isn't because we are in a pilot program, because we chose to start it at the beginning. So I don't believe it's completely unfunded mandate. It may eventually be that, but I believe this pilot project does have money. And then the second thing is that it does completely make sense to me about the expansiveness of, even just the word of disability. And so I think it makes sense, even if seems like boring, of listing 40, 60. Examples. I don't mind that we have a whole lot that we can think of, but always with the caveat and similar situations, or, something that says, we're not gonna think of every single thing, but it at least gives people more of an idea than the typical, 5 or 6.
Yeah.
Yeah, and in fairness, when I started crafting, the list that I did, there's a handful of things on there I had never heard of. So what I would hope is that each of you, and maybe even the next time around, you do your own search on, on what it is that, and what you find and bring back. And I think we could build, all these, the list and make it a singular list that is the best we can do with what we have found, and then that's our contribution.
But
Push it
always with
forward.
the caveat that there
That-
are other.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I'm sure there's some tribal region in Nicaragua that it has some issue that we'll never know about. And I think that's not exciting in a weird way, but that's the whole exploration thing of as disabilities change and something else is discovered, or whatever the vernacular properly is, so. That's what I'd hope for each of us, that we come back in the next committee meeting and have your own list.
Well, and that's why it's imperative that I think, address how does that process work? And think of some scenarios, maybe even for trainings, because
And could that be
if somebody has a really, really rare disability, they're not gonna be, you're gonna wanna have, I would wanna have, if most people have a mobility disability after 65, which they do, address that, and then here's this, and this, and this. So that we give them credit for what they have done, but I will tell you, the DD community, which I've been a part of for a long time, is big.
But it's DD.
Developmental disabilities, I'm sorry.
Okay.
I used an acronym, I apologize. Good to have.
Not the only one.
People with develop, they have parents and advocates for years, and they've always gotten bigger services, more money. And they represent a large community, of course, and not to discount them if this is not a competition, but it's a pecking order.
Yeah. Are we allowed to ask people from organizations like the ARC to come and speak to us, or are we only allowed to ask county departments?
No,
No, you
you,
know.
you can certainly have guest speakers, from other departments.
Well,
I mean,
Anywhere in the county.
Oh, okay, but not someone who's big in Sacramento who lives somewhere else, but does the California laws and advocacy?
I don't see why not.
You can have guest
Yeah.
speakers, subject matter experts, definitely.
Great, okay.
We could totally have someone from Disability Rights California come and speak, I think, to us.
And does anybody know who that person would be? And if not,
I don't know you want somebody that's really working within the SB 43 issue. Jessica probably knows.
Well, so here's something that's interesting though, is that Disability Rights California is one of the leading opposition groups to SB 43. There's only a small handful of disability organizations that are pro SB 43, same with CarePort. So Yeah.
so that's the conflict.
I'm just saying, I don't know if that matters, but
Well, they're against it.
yes.
So why would that be a bad thing?
I don't know. Do we need to bring somebody that's for it? I'm just trying to, again, not be self-serving, right?
I would almost think, I would almost think voices on both sides will lend the committee to something in the middle.
It could, or it could be that we bring in people that we know are,
Aligned with what the movement towards things like broader protections for people with disabilities as opposed to limited protections for dependent adults. Like, we know we want to move the interest of the larger disability community forward by saying senior and disability victimization as opposed to elder and dependent adult abuse.
Yes.
Okay,
I think the county would be best served if this committee is educated on the full scope
yes.
of the pros and the cons. I can't imagine.
Yeah, so we could come back and ask somebody from the county, who's, has a voice in SB 43, as well as somebody from Disability Rights.
Yes, I think that's an excellent suggestion, and I would only benefit because this is not my area of expertise.
Now, I did send, because subsequent to a couple of meetings ago when we first talked about it, I did send some background information videos.
You did.
Of course, there are links to words and reports and all of that, but these were a set of videos from the different key areas so that the committee would at least have that baseline, that background understanding. And then we can reach out to particular departments or representatives for clarifying to that baseline information. If the committee is ready to determine what is, that yes, we've watched these videos, we understand what the baseline is, what the different perspectives are from those different departments. We'd like to hear this from this department, and we'd like to hear follow up on these particular topics. I'm glad to do that. I just thought it would be worth the committee members' time as well as the representatives' time if the information that's already publicly available, you all had ingested that. If once you're ready to do that, then we can move forward.
Yeah, so we have like two conversations in this meeting right now around disability rights and behavioral health, and that's really focused on, well, we're really focusing on SB 43 right now, which is moving to be implemented January 2025.
Yeah, yes. So
I'm sorry, I'm brain freezing, but go ahead. Can I just finish real
Go
quick?
ahead, I'm sorry.
No,
I'm
it's
sorry.
okay, it's okay, thank you, I just got brain freeze. We have very limited time for engagement in the SB 43 stakeholder conversation, so I think out of time urgency, because we're moving quickly into the next round of that, I'd like for us to try to, as a group, figure out how the group can be more engaged before that is done, before the stakeholder meetings are over. And then second to that, setting up a meeting where we have guests that can help our baseline understanding from the documents grow into something more, to see what we can do to influence, the rights of people with disabilities in the first year of SB 43. That makes sense.
It makes sense to me. I like it. And I think that the stakeholder issue could be addressed immediately with, either it's hard, you can see we're small because there's not, people appointed, but people have to show up, they have to be interested. But that we encourage wherever we go, people with lived experience. And so do you know people that should be going and should be on the stakeholder meetings, or do they need to be publicized more, or?
I just know that they were very selective. I want to be careful with my terminology. Selective, quiet, limited amounts of people, and not too many of them.
There was not a public announcement.
It was not a public forum.
Even though there's supposed to be stakeholders?
I don't know, Michelle, you and I talked about it a long time ago when I first found out there was one and wondered how we as a committee could get somebody on it. And, they just moved through so quickly. And now we're at the last round of them, and there's not a robust disability rights representation. I'm included a tiny, tiny little bit in one small part, and I value that very much. And, do bring that back here and take our concerns there, but I would like to see it in more of us than
More of you,
just a
yes.
little bit of me.
Yes. Thank you.
So I don't know if we can somehow request an invitation, or if somebody's personally interested, or just anything, but if anyone has an idea.
I was just looking, Disability Rights California does have an update on SB 43. So it looks like that would be a resource if people are able to tap into that. And then as well, I'm looking to see what, as you mentioned, listening sessions that there are, because trust me, the county of San Diego does a lot around community engagement and community input. It's just making sure that you get the word of it. So I can look to see what I can provide you all. But I highly, this from Disability Rights was February 1st, 2024. So there's information available. Just and then opportunities to
Yeah, and
to
just
make
so-
input.
Yes, and just so you know, specifically the stakeholder meetings I'm referring to, I believe, came out of when they voted to delay implementation, when the supervisors voted, back October or November to delay the implementation of SB 43 to January of 2025, there was a mandate by the Board of Supervisors that a stakeholder group be compiled, and the first one was 40 people from various things like hospitals, law enforcement, behavioral health services was there. Just different components, but it was limited to 40 people. Then they broke out into 4 specific groups of, one of which was like training and law enforcement and community engagement. And I can't tell you the other 3 right now, but those were also pretty small groups. It was a small conference room at the Behavioral Health Services office down in Mission Valley. I would say, less than 40 people in those meetings. So that's like, I'm not saying that this necessarily is an all or nothing. Somebody from this committee has to be included in those particular meetings, but there should be an at least equal way where this committee can have some type of voice before that, all those reports are brought back to the Board of Supervisors. Does that make sense?
Yes,
Mm-hmm.
maybe we should just have our own learning session. And we should show DRC, I'm just making this up on the cuff, on DRC's website with all the information they have about SB 43 and listen to their video during one of our meetings. And then, specifically, do it maybe within a working meeting rather than bringing somebody in. I don't know.
I think we should bring somebody in. Because it's not, that's like us being in a silo,
Yeah, I think you're right.
because we're not
Well, because
getting,
we want to create collaboration.
right, and
So when we-
also because that's not, it's irrelevant what we learn or don't learn if decisions are being made elsewhere,
I
where
agree.
there's no increase. That's why.
Well,
And if watching the
Thank you.
videos, the decisions have already been made and that video is a little bit, or that position is a little bit already outdated because somebody's already moved forward on it.
I know,
Yeah.
that's.
And that could be the stopgap, is
And,
having somebody there.
and at the county level, things are gonna be different than from the state perspective sometimes.
So Todd, do you have any, input on who? So individually, we would have to watch probably the videos ourselves on our own time, whatever that means, but do you,
It could be shown here.
no, yes, you're totally right. It almost would give us license to have the questions ready as individuals, for having a person come in. Because, some of that is our responsibility and it gives you time to digest it on your own. And then, of course, we can replay it here with somebody here, but is there somebody, and I'm not saying, tell me who it is now, but if you can consider who that person would be that can help us digest these things, that is at the today information. So we watch on our own, watch it here, and then somebody could say, well, this is what today is.
I believe so. The behavioral health services team would be able to come in. I think Jessica made a good point that different stakeholders in the process have different perspectives on it. The Superior Court public defender, district attorney, as well as behavioral health services. So you'll get different perspectives on, what those, and then disability rights, California. So, as long as you all feel like you have a good baseline understanding of the situation as it was at some point, then we can say, we think we need to know more about it from this perspective. I saw that video, and these are the questions that I have from it, from the situation. These are the concerns that we have. Then I can share that with the department and make sure whoever the speakers are, they can make sure the right people are gonna come forward and be able to give you an update on that. I just think that you all get, I've seen that you all have the tendency of getting frustrated if they're talking too high level and missing the point. So really want to make sure that we can get the right, where you really see the issues, we get the right people in.
Yeah, that's what I was saying, part of our own personal responsibility is figuring a way to have those videos digested by ourselves and then mirroring that in, a meeting, a board meeting. And then, so then we can articulate as a whole who we have a question for, instead of bringing all of them here and not really having a question for them, but just listening to them.
Right,
Yeah.
and we've had that, and then the outcome is, well, what did we come up with? What did we make happen?
Right.
So again, just and it's just my perspective on it. If you believe, if the committee decides, otherwise, we want to have disability rights come in, or we want to have, and I know that the committee had said something about a panel. I think that is probably for the audience that we're having. I think it would be great for there to be a panel with hundreds of people
Yeah.
listening to that. And if, I think I see that it would be a great opportunity for the Committee for Persons with Disabilities to host this listening session on such and such, but
Yeah.
that's not where we're going right now
ready.
because of the timing. The timing that we're talking about is very, very
Yeah.
tight.
But that doesn't mean we couldn't do that for year one.
Of course.
Yeah.
We could do that, we could plan a year ahead for the live well. Because if we have collaborations, which it would be with a panel.
Yes,
And-
that would be great. That right there.
Mm-hmm.
Because I haven't seen that on their level, on their list of topics.
That's nowhere near that audience. I think if we did it on Zoom, you can pull in people from Sacramento, you can pull in people from disability rights, you can pull in very dear ACLU, which by the way is also working on
Right, yeah.
that. You can pull it in and it's convenient for them.
Yeah.
The Liberal doesn't bring 100 people.
Well, can't we do hybrid?
Yes,
Yeah,
it can be done hybrid. I'm just saying that,
I hear you.
that not to have the limit.
Yeah.
And I do think, I don't know how long you're saying these videos are, but I think having them here makes sense, even if we did it before the meeting started. But to have them available here, so other people have that access as well.
Absolutely. So that's what I was saying. Our personal responsibility is to watch it on our own, if that's your ability. And then come to a meeting and then have it here, so for accessibility.
Well, really, I think the homework is to do just what you said, watch the videos, links, read stuff, whatever you. I mean,
Right, but some of us can't do that, so.
But however we can access information. However we can do that, and I don't know what that is for each individual here.
There are some YouTube videos and stakeholder meetings that, I've listened to. that I can't
Well,
see.
but I think what I hear Todd say, and I agree wholeheartedly, establish specific issues. And sometimes it's versed as a question, but it's really, we already know the answer, but we want to have the dialogue.
Yeah.
So I think we need to come in with each one of us, if we can, saying, this is what I am interested in understanding or advocating for, or knowing how that's going to go down, blah, 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 before we ask the person. Before we ask the behavioral health, for instance, which has all those partners. And so that we're getting at specific partnerships. So we're doing our work and establishing ourselves and creating the opportunity for furthering collaborations and partnerships. It's a building.
Right, and Todd, if you could send that email out again.
Sure, of course.
All of us, I would appreciate that. And
I can even find some additional resources that may be more timely, so yes.
And, oh, yeah, the updated, so any other add-ons? You good? Any other add-ons?
Good job.
We should find out.
There's a question from the recorder.
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely.
Point of clarification, earlier you mentioned pulling out and renaming the ADA request form for IHSS clients, but what would you like it to be titled?
Oh, okay, to honor what Susan said, rather than using language, we don't want to move forward, let's call it the qualifying for disability special considerations and protections. Because
Well,
that's,
this is the IHSS.
oh, I'm so sorry. Oh, okay, sorry, you want to know what to call that one?
Yes.
So the list that I made,
No,
No.
this is for the IHSS.
Okay. So we're sending your letter or we're gonna talk about sending your stuff. Okay, I got you.
I think for the IHSS, I'm going to provide Jessica with the video from the presentation, and then Jessica will come back with whether the presentation addressed her concerns. If it did not, then we can put her in contact with the individual, the presenter, and then they'd be able to, I don't know that there's a name for the IHSS, what was it?
It's just, it's the ADA
Accommodation.
accommodation
Request.
process for IHSS clients.
And she spoke to it, and we asked your question,
Yeah,
and
so-
she responded
Yeah.
that it is, that it is addressed in their onboarding of the client, and of the recipient,
Oh,
and that it should be carried on in their file.
okay, so I appreciate that, but I am here to say, as somebody personally and also who has not only a lot of friends and groups, and now I'm telling you that that is not happening.
There
So,
we go.
yeah, so what do we need to do to move forward with guidance and a relationship to help to improve that process? Do we want to table it and put it for a future agenda item?
I think if you saw the presentation that we saw, so that we're on the same
I will watch it.
page,
I will watch.
then I think that will provide the clarity of, based on your lived experience and what versus what she said,
Okay,
the clarity for what the next steps need to be. So it's sort of everybody's on the same page
Great.
with, and then I think that'll provide that guidance.
So
Okay.
put it on next month's agenda.
yeah, or the next, since we have a few priority items that are more time sensitive.
Anything else? No? Okay.
Oh, I'm sorry, but to go back to what Kate just said, do we want to rename for clarity for our work that we've already done and moving forward for continuity? Do we want to change the qualifying a disability checklist to qualifying for disability special considerations and protections? Since we don't want to use dependent adult.
Well, other than the fact that I don't, you've explained it to us briefly, but I don't. I'm not sure that that captures what we need, but whatever is best. Because you're leading that really,
Yeah.
Jessica. So I think it just has to, you have to say.
Okay, I mean, I think that that's the clearest way I can describe it.
And then worst case is if
We'll
you,
rename
if
it
you
later.
clarify it again, because you've grown in that exploratory space, then we just rename it.
Okay, so I would say qualifying for disability special considerations and protections under the law. And Susan, I would just be happy to share more with you anytime.
Thanks.
Thank you.
All right, anything else on that one? Katie, you're good to go?
Yeah.
Okay, great, thank you. Agenda item number 6, we're gonna vote on the committee letters, starting with housing.
Did everybody have,
That was the housing and water.
let's see, the letter?
Yes.
And that is to, June 26th to Sarah Thornburg, I believe, correct?
Right.
Every time I get the attachments, they seem to be, first of all, the same as they were last time. And there's things in red, and there's things that I thought, gee, that seems like a typo. And then when I came and it was printed out, none of those things were in it.
Yeah, I think that, I just realized that the
That's
old
what I'm doing.
bylaws went out
Yeah,
and the old letter to the.
Yeah,
district
so I
attorney
don't
went out.
have, I didn't print them out because I thought there'd be copies again. But the attachments seem like they were the same.
My apologies.
so Jessica and I had we were reading the bylaws together, but before the meeting, and as I'm reading it, I'm like, no, we already changed that,
Yeah.
so that's not what
Yeah.
that is, it's the,
Yeah, we have a new copy.
yeah,
And we did, although last time we didn't get through, we're not to the bylaws yet, but
I know, I'm just,
we didn't get through the whole document
Right.
last time, so. There's probably some.
And I haven't
discussion.
heard the housing letter.
I can share that up and then, see.
and I can
I don't
read it
have
if you like.
Sarah's address, so.
So once he pulls that up, I will.
Do you want me just to read it, since it's pretty short?
Yes.
Yeah,
This is Sarah Thornburg. Thank you so much for presenting to the Committee for Persons with Disabilities on May 17th, 2024, regarding the Affordable and Attainable Housing Program. It was very informative, and we appreciated the offer to provide input to this important program. We appreciated having the slides provided to us for further review. In summary, our input is: consider fire and flood insurance costs and requirements in East County unincorporated areas. Consider egress access for evacuation routes for both humans and livestock. Combined, affordable and accessible for all programs. This program is geared towards seniors. Consider incorporating younger adults living with disabilities as well. As a follow-up question, will there be a separate program for disabled veterans, or how is that population included? Many thanks. Bill.
How is that proclamation?
it's a letter.
It's just a letter.
It's just a letter.
No, you said, how is that the last sentence?
Population.
Population, how is that population included? That was a question. I think that came from
Right,
Carolyn.
yeah, because East County is the biggest concentration of veterans, so we want to make sure that that's also covered as well. Or I thought it was important, and if not, so discussion. Anyone?
Me.
Yes.
Jessica,
Okay, the only area that I, have concern or input is the 4th recommendation. This program is geared towards seniors, comma, consider incorporating younger adults living with disabilities as well. I would prefer to say something like, we strongly urge you, or something other than a just consider, or I would like to ask how they are going to, just like we asked how they're going to.
Yeah,
include
I
that.
like that. I like that we can use that.
our input is, yes, bam.
Right.
Incorporate,
So she's made that change.
I did that.
Oh, I'm sorry.
So I
Glasses
basically
on, I can't see
said,
that far.
since we started off with consider, combine, I said consider.
So the add-on, Michelle, is consider incorporating younger adults living with disabilities as well.
Yeah, I don't like the word consider.
We didn't want to use consider, yeah.
We urge,
Please do this. Include,
please incorporate,
include younger adults as,
Include is good.
Yeah.
And then can we ask, and can you please share with us how you already do include adults living with disabilities, or did you cover that?
I think it's too
It
much.
wasn't,
Yeah.
it wasn't an
We did
area
not
that was part of their. They didn't
are
have
they,
anything
we
for.
could say, are they included?
Well, they're
Well,
not.
They said they weren't.
we're not
They said they
included,
weren't.
then we can't-
Yeah,
it's
right.
not.
Yeah, but
But
this
you might
read,
have a different program. That's.
this read,
Well, I think we're referencing the program that she
Specifically.
specifically spoke about.
I understood it that the question would mean, is there something we don't know about? In which you are including them, and this gives her that opportunity.
or
Share
how can we, or we would request to work further with you on including, rather than younger adults, just adults living with disabilities as well.
Yeah, I would agree, we don't have to say younger.
All ages. Well, the deal was, she was addressing a program for seniors.
Right. And we are gonna ask her, how is she?
I feel better about, this is our input, and please add younger adults with disabilities, broaden it besides just seniors. I think we need both, but I think the input from me at the meeting was, I encourage you to put younger people with disabilities of any age in there and not just think of this as affordable, like the affordable was separate from the accessible.
Right,
So that's why we put that bullet in here.
Mhm.
So that is,
We urge you to incorporate children and adults living with disabilities as well.
Well, children would,
I don't know, you just said all ages, so. I guess
so we
children's
can
not,
say all ages. We could,
adults are just.
we don't have to say adults,
Is this a program that has anything to do with children?
no,
No,
But they are serving adults with disabilities, but they're only focusing on seniors.
I think the way Todd
they were
has
not,
reformulated this a little bit, the bullet, to me, at least, it looks like the bullet items represent our specific input on the program she presented.
exactly.
And then the second part is a follow-up question is, will there be a separate program for adults and children living with disabilities and disabled veterans? Or how are these populations maybe already included?
Okay.
yeah.
so maybe not will there be, is there?
Yeah.
And I would like a little more emphasis on the accessible, affordable. Can you read that part again?
Just says combined, affordable and accessible for all housing, I guess, for all
So I
programs.
probably wouldn't say combine them, I would say anything that is of all of your, affordable should also have universal design, or should also be accessible.
I remember where you're going because we had a housing plan, meeting, presentation, and it was an accessible, it was an affordable, but they have taken accessibility out.
Yeah,
Yeah.
So it's all, the affordable should also be accessible.
Yeah.
So Todd just added include accessible with affordable for all programs.
Yes. Include accessibility with affordable for all
With
programs.
affordability. The grammar's off there.
I don't think grammar matters anymore.
Way to go, Michelle. All right, that's it. I think it's tight.
Okay,
Are we gonna add a fourth? We strongly, please include, or are we gonna just ask it as a follow-up?
Because I think it's a follow-up
Okay.
question because it wasn't included. Sort of two parts to the letter.
Yeah.
Here's our input on what you presented and here's what we want.
Right.
Yeah.
Follow-up, yeah.
We would like to also know if you have any programs, something like that.
Yeah.
It says, as follow-up questions, are there separate programs for adults and children living with disabilities, comma, and disabled vets, or how are those populations included?
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
that's
think
good.
that's good.
We're good.
All right,
Okay, so,
we'll put the
Current date.
and the logo,
address, yeah.
all right.
letterhead.
And Carolyn.
So,
do we need to vote on it?
Yes.
We don't have to
Yeah, I usually follow,
set out.
right, I usually follow Todd to his office after the meeting and then he'll print it out and I'll sign it.
You're wonderful.
Thank you. So I'd like to do the vote on that. So, all those in favor for, acceptance, as recrafted, for the housing letter, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Any abstains? All right, that one's good to go.
And then the, so we just talk about the district
Yeah.
attorney, because the only thing that we changed,
Well, you had a question on that.
from the one last month was, and this is the letter that includes that Carolyn wrote, that includes the list of invisible disabilities and reaching out to the district attorney's office. We had said it was nice to meet Marlon Kincaid at our May 2024 meeting and look forward to her presentation in June. We didn't get it done in June, so it was nice to meet Marla Kincaid at our May 2024 meeting and hear her excellent presentation on June 26th. We would like to thank you for your continued support following your visit on, or would also like, we should probably say we would also like to thank you for your continued support following your visit on April 23, 2023. At that time, we appreciated the information you provided about the mandatory training for law enforcement focused on making justice easier for people with disabilities, including that provided by ARC and regional de-escalation training. We also, I used appreciated too much.
Yeah.
A different word.
I love that word.
Your follow-up on issues that the committee members have encountered, especially around service animals and hotel vouchers, and an openness to enhancing areas where de-escalation training could be enhanced, which is also redundant. Good editing job, Jeanette.
I have a suggestion that can easily help.
Would be favorable.
go ahead, Jessica.
I would be, my suggestion is to thank her for coming to the May meeting and thanking her for her presentation and thanking them for their continued support, period, and taking everything else out and then sending everything exactly the way it is, because there's no reason to hold up the sending of information around a list of invisible disabilities, but what we ended up doing was kind of taking the old work and merging it into this, and I would like to separate it because we did agree to respond to other issues to the DA, and I'll take some responsibility for not being able to be, fully engaged and as fast as we would like, but I have some catching up to do, and I think that,
And you're talking about ARC and regional de-escalation.
So are you talking about just taking out this paragraph?
pretty much taking the red out and just sending it as you guys promised, and then having an opportunity to revisit where they asked us for
And then send
feedback
it
on the
out.
work.
Send a
we-
separate one
yeah,
instead of
exactly.
merging it.
Yeah, anyone?
You want to make a motion? Sorry.
No, no, no.
Okay,
I'll move to do what Jessica said.
I can repeat.
State that, yeah.
I make a motion to thank her for her visit, the presentation, and their continued support, and leave everything else in the red out, and then send the rest of the letter as is, so we can move forward with sharing with them our knowledge around some of the invisible disabilities and their symptoms that impact and engagement with law.
Can I get a second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed? Any abstains?
I do not
All right, that correction is noted. I see them.
So basically, we would move that one sentence up to the first paragraph. Right, we would like to thank you for your continued support following your visit on April 23rd.
Would it be, we would like to thank you for your continuous work, comma, your,
Just period.
like the
just
thanks, okay,
period.
3 sentences.
Yeah, it was nice to
With
meet
a period.
Marla at Blah. We look forward to her presentation on Blah. We would like to thank you for continued support, period, and then take the rest of the red out and deal with it
Okay.
in the future.
Yeah, and it wouldn't be, we look forward, we appreciate it.
Yeah.
your
Right.
presentation.
Right, but that's gonna come out, so, okay.
Okay, I'm pulling it up on the screen and.
Just fix it now,
Yeah, sometimes.
I gathered that, but they were rushing it up.
Okay, so we're gonna take, the red out, you said?
No, not the whole thing.
I
We
thought it
need
was
to
all the rest.
we need to fix the spelling of her name. It's King K.
All right.
KDE. That sentence. And we appreciated whatever,
No, so at continued support, period.
thank you for your
Right.
continued support, period.
Did you guys get the presentation?
Yeah.
Okay.
And everything.
And everything
And all
else
the way down
goes.
to enhanced is, take it out. There you go.
Bam.
Then obviously Trent Black.
Do you want that as a separate paragraph right there? Do you want to move it to a different part of up or?
I don't care about that.
Okay,
That's,
all right.
we'll let Todd do that, and then after we're done, if Todd wants to put that out, we'll sign it and we'll throw it forward.
Okay, so let's see, there was something else, 'cause it was, so we're taking this list out, right?
No,
No,
That's what we're saying.
that's the whole point of that particular letter. The red is going to be in
a separate letter.
Do you want this, the extra spacing there between those?
Up to, dealer's choice. It's APA.
I might
12
take it
times,
out.
and probably just for size.
The size of the
Yeah.
letter, yeah.
Yeah, shorter is better. I think normally with regular letters, we want to keep them to 1 page.
Yeah, that was kind of hard just because there was, the list was the list.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
Yeah. but
Now,
I
do you
agree.
want the list, outside, I'm sorry to cut you off, do you want the list outside of the letter because?
Yeah.
Like as an
Yeah.
attachment.
And we had talked about that before, so that she can forward,
Yeah.
without having the forward of the letter to her.
Attached.
Attached.
Say attached.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Okay, I'll,
good
I
idea,
can move that.
good idea.
So then- 1 second. Because I think the list will still be 2 pages, but it'll at least it'll be by.
The letter will be shorter.
Just want to pull this. There, and then this would be on a separate page. Here's a list of invisible disabilities that law enforcement departments may consider when developing training programs.
perfect.
And, okay, that. Okay, and then, I will
You can make
Check
some line
the,
space adjustments to.
yeah.
Yeah, that's fine.
And then the other thing that I wanted to, do you want, like I just did with this, do you want at the end of the letter to have the list of committee members?
I don't think that's important. I don't think that's.
Okay, so we don't have that, we won't have that in the housing thank you letter either, right?
No,
Okay.
it doesn't, I don't think it was who we are. Nobody knows, nobody knows who I am, that's good.
And then you do want the CC to be Todd and members?
Makes sense.
Okay, all right, so this is the, that was the housing letter, we'll do something similar here. Looks like yeah, like you said, I'll have to work with the spacing,
Yeah, the address could probably be single spaced,
yeah.
Yeah,
and that way it's, you don't have the,
yeah, uniform formatting. That's good, that's good.
So in the interest of time, I'm gonna let you work on that, Todd, and then if you don't mind, we're gonna go to agenda 7 for community business and the tablecloth design.
So what we had a couple of ideas on the tablecloth design here, I'll show it up on the screen. And it was basically, we did this on the flyer. So just to describe it, this was an image. It's a lot of different colors, multicolored images with different people with representing different disabilities. And this was the flyer that we used for the ethics fair at the booth, and we had this as the handout. So I'm gonna put it up on the screen so you can, I can describe it while I put it up here. Was to potentially have you full screen.
Is that a dog? Right? What is that? Is that a?
Maybe you need to have like a golden retriever.
Yeah.
instead of a black one.
Yeah, it is the
Just
dog.
doesn't
It's
know. Just
it's the
doesn't
black
know.
dog.
I think it needs to be a
I mean, I love
brown
black
dog.
dogs, but I think in this case, I can't. It looks like she's hugging the pillow and I don't
Yeah.
get it.
Yeah, we need a brown dog, Todd.
A different color, yeah,
Yeah.
that will stand out. So
And my only question is, the guy with looks like a thumbs up, I don't wanna be. Is he, oh, he's an amputee, I think. Is that
at the
what that-
bottom
is
in
that-
the blue shirt,
Yes,
Takes off.
right, so maybe we shouldn't cut it off, cause I just think he's doing a thumbs up.
Right, but we need a representation of invisible disability in there as well.
Well, and that one of ADHD, I think that's the whole, I hear you. I guess I don't understand the lady smiling at the computer.
He's in-
Oh, she's in a wheelchair.
What,
Oh,
what do
it's
the
cut
people
off.
look like? I thought you were gonna describe it.
Okay, Michelle.
so, one,
well, it looks like this image may not be as indicative as we had hoped, because if you all are questioning the
there's one gentleman looking at his computer, here's his glasses on, he's looking at his computer, there's another woman, I don't know what she's doing.
Signing.
The second circle on the
Yeah,
top,
she's signing.
oh, she's signing, I can't see that.
Yeah.
And then there's somebody, a male on the bottom who looks like he's, or thumbs up.
I thought it was a thumbs up, but he's an amputee.
Oh, okay, and then there's a woman sitting in a chair or couch with a dog on her lap, and you can't really tell it's a dog. Then there's a gentleman in a wheelchair with fatigues on, who is looking lovingly at his daughter while his wife stands behind them. And then there's a woman on the computer. And then the last one is a person holding a sign in front of their face that says, I have ADHD. And then the background from that is a multicolor sort of, tartan, I would say, tartan pattern.
How many are people of color?
1,
Two.
Well, plus
Two out of how
the
many?
family members are of color.
Yeah,
So there's
And then
one,
the
two,
person on the
three,
left,
four,
is
there's
he
five.
Asian?
Yeah.
There's five, looks like one Asian,
I think that's a female, actually.
sorry, female
On the far left.
Asian. The lady with the dog could be, Hispanic. The ADHD could be
The
Asian.
wheelchair could be some type of Latina.
Yeah. So I mean, good representation.
yeah.
I would say decently racially and genderly, okay, but the visible representations are extremely dominant in the top three most, visibly understood disabilities of mobility, hearing, and vision. I think the guy on the left is wearing glasses and the screen is some kind of special screen.
That's not what it
Doesn't
looks
look
like.
a normal computer. So I'm not sure, but yes, I really am,
So that design was what communications, yeah, actually, this is my-
Came up with,
yes, and we used that for the flyer. So that was one idea. The other idea would be to basically have the county logo, the county of San Diego, the new county logo with the county administration center and the beach and the ocean with the bird flying there, with the mountains and the forest in the back. So it really was selected to represent all of the different regions of San Diego, of the county of San Diego. And we could have that, it's cleaner
but it had
with,
nothing to do with disabilities.
right.
Right, but.
But
it's
it,
from-
it would have the Committee for Persons with Disabilities in writing below. This is for the tablecloth design.
So my recommendation would, the ones have already been made, right? So it's actually a really decent, the first thing I thought of, wow, that's a great eye catching. But at least the optics need to be cleaned up a little bit, so people don't look at it and be like, why is that lady hugging, maybe it looks like her legs, I don't understand.
mean, I
And
would-
definitely not cut the guy off who's the MC, because that doesn't look appropriate.
From a marketing standpoint, I just want to point out, if this is a tablecloth, there will probably be things on top, and you're only gonna see the bottom half of it.
Got it.
And with people standing in front of it potentially, generally clean might be easier for somebody to see if there's two people already standing in front of the table to identify.
I'm gonna go back to my suggestion. Am I cutting you off? I wanna go back to my suggestion from the last meeting, which is there is an expanded blue disability symbol that is beyond the wheelchair symbol, that has other blocks that show every other form of disability in all sorts of different ways, like an electric brain and different vision and hearing and
The one we showed last time. That was the circle, but.
And I can pull that one.
Tighter, and it had. all-
No, this is
No.
the standard, just like we have the blue wheelchair person to park. Right? We have the blue box for a wheelchair person. There are expanded ones that have anywhere from 5 to 50 blocks. And have every other
I like that idea.
symbol.
Do you have,
Yeah.
can you find it?
I can find
Then, so if you
something,
can find it, maybe you can
I
send it
can
to
find
Todd.
something kind of similar.
Because the one I found was the circle that had
Mhm.
circle and
And I'm
then
gonna
inner
bring that
circle,
one up.
inner circle, and inner circle, and it covered a lot.
Here, hold on, bear with me, I'm coming.
Well, and Katie's right, you don't have anything on the top, it's just that bottom hanging down part.
Right,
So I don't think this is. We don't need to spend an inordinate amount of time, because I think it's more important what we're doing there and what we have on the table.
Does it make sense to have our materials have a more detailed logo, like what Jessica's talking about, and the tablecloth, just identifying, so you can see across, like at the patio where we're at the ethics fair,
This
you
is
can
one
see what it
example.
is.
Pass that down.
I like the idea of the tablecloth having it because it's
That's not the
people,
perfect example, sorry, Michelle.
people aren't gonna necessarily take the paper unless it's something, but this is like a consistent visibility. That even if they just go past it,
Michelle, do you want to try to look with your magnifying lens?
no, I want you to describe it.
Okay, so just like when you pull into your disabled parking spot and you see the disability blue
Right,
wheelchair
got it.
person. This particular one, which isn't a perfect one either, but it has 6 blocks and it goes in order from top left. I'm gonna just go through them.
Yeah,
A phone, of an old style, like phone, like you would pull off of the receiver and talk back in the eighties with like a special signal coming out of it. A profile of a human's face with a highlighted brain inside of it. A 6 dots that look like a roll the dice with the word braille underneath, somebody with a cane, hands doing a sign language, somebody in a wheelchair, somebody with an ear with a line crossed through,
mhm.
another kind of telecommunication special thing, a CC. And then, of course, I've seen ones that have a person with a service dog. I've seen, other ones like this that are expanded to have other symbols. And it's just that blue and white, old fashioned, standard blue and white hues.
What did you, do to look it up? What was the,
I have
search?
saved pictures, so sorry.
Oh, I might be able to.
Disability sign.
What if you just Googled,
Something like that.
Okay.
Say,
Jessica, what would you call it that he could Google?
I would Google like
Yeah, disability,
Disability.
Icon.
disability
No,
blue.
that's one.
Yeah, disability
Is that
blue.
There it is.
What do you
Got
say?
ADA symbol stock photos.
You just found the one Jessica described.
yeah.
Is that the one you
Yeah, but
described?
Yeah. And I could look and not.
And find more.
Yeah, and find more. I have a bunch of saved pictures. There's even a wheelchair that has every symbol in between, but that doesn't necessarily translate into branded material as well. But we could even pull some of the symbols out of the wheelchair to make our own universal kind of inclusivity sign.
So you don't like that one?
It's not that I don't like
It's too
it.
busy.
It's not.
There's better.
The traditional blue and white, I'm obsessed with, and when they did the blue envelope, oh my gosh, where's my bracelet?
It's very, well known, the blue,
Mhm.
and the signage and the, individual with a cane, a white cane. I mean, those are all very,
Kind of iconic.
yeah, and braille.
And we've got the blue envelope color and logo kind of falls in there, and you've got the hospital sign kind of falls in there. I just feel like that blue is
Right,
a
we got it.
universal define.
Yeah.
And then we can add some more, so maybe put this off, and when you find it, even more examples, you can forward that,
Yeah.
and then we can make a decision.
Would we also have the title of the committee written on there too?
Yes.
Okay.
So you said persons with
I
disabilities.
think that's a good.
And so it was the
Yeah.
county logo of persons with disabilities, and then the, at the
emblems
bottom,
down.
yeah. So in consideration of time. That was pretty.
Yeah, that's
cool.
what I was just talking about.
That one
I
is
use that a
cool.
lot on, like, if I am doing training or anything like that.
So Michelle, this one is a, sort of a 2D rendering of what you can assume is a person sitting in a wheelchair, but then inside the inline, is all different, images that flow down and around through the wheelchair. Which is
Including
pretty
ones
cool.
that we just,
Yeah.
that were mentioned in Jessica's, and
Yeah.
then also,
It
a
also
person with a dog.
And it represents the senior disabilities due to advanced aging, 'cause it has a
Yeah.
very cute outline of like an older man and a woman walking
Cane.
together with the
Yeah.
cane.
And then that's the autism puzzle.
Yeah,
An autism puzzle,
Yeah, the puzzle
Yeah.
piece, the autism, symbol.
Yeah,
I don't know the autism.
I don't know.
I think it's a
It's the
puzzle
puzzle.
piece. Puzzle
Yeah,
piece.
Oh, the jigsaw puzzle?
Yeah.
Oh,
Just one piece,
Yes.
uh-huh.
and that's an autism stand.
Then they have a couple
Symbol?
cardiac symbols, which is important as people with medical
Yeah.
conditions. It's very good.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that would be super cool. And it gives the visibility wherever it is that we are. In addition to, you know, the obvious,
Yeah.
which is what the group is.
And then we also on our, on your committees, we could use this on the committees,
Letterhead.
Oh,
letterhead.
that's better.
I like that.
And that's actually, expanding on the little wheelchair symbol.
What is this?
What we just described, the wheelchair with all of the, different signs and symbols inside the inline. So you'd have an outline of a wheelchair, and then we'd have the inline, sorry, he's still on the same, he didn't move, he's on the same, design.
Logo.
So I
Logo.
think that, and it's not necessarily true that you can't, I mean, I have different tablecloths when we do different events. You can have stuff on the tablecloths. I understand that the thought is it's only gonna show down at the bottom.
Well, the down at the bottom is more at the branding side that,
Which is fine.
that Katie was talking about. So so we're not trying to get too far into the weeds. We're just trying to have,
But the additional stuff, and the other thing that we could really use, and it would be valuable, I think, would be having like a banner where we could, you know, because that's what you really see when you're in a booth. It's the banner on top.
Ooh, I have another one
If you
that's
have
so
walls,
amazing.
if you have
You
walls
always
behind
have
them,
it. You always have.
We did at the
we
ethics
didn't,
fair.
and actually it wasn't even our well, we did, but it wasn't our canopy. It was somebody set it up for us.
And
Right,
you couldn't hang
You
anything on
couldn't
it.
hang anything
are
on
you
it.
sure you
Mhm.
couldn't?
Yes, because
Right.
her and I were there all day, and how many people's things were just flying all over, and
Yeah, yeah.
Why
it's-
couldn't you, well, if you have zip ties and you've got grommets on a banner,
Totally hear you.
how would you not be able to? Because I've been doing this for decades, where it was always, I had to bring twine.
No, what I'm saying is the ones that were provided for us, it wasn't possible.
Yeah.
What you're saying is possible.
On the canopy, you're saying that there was nothing.
There's no canopy.
There wasn't, it wasn't designed
Looks
that,
at somebody,
no, so I'm sorry.
It wasn't designed. to
It
hang
wasn't
things
designed to
up, it was
hang
for
anything
shade.
from, because it was the thinnest, that barely covered the actual top of the canopy. You didn't have that, it was a bad design. It wasn't our choice. It was there and it was afforded to us.
It
So
was for
you're talking
shade,
in
it
the
wasn't for
future?
hanging things.
Yeah, so you're talking in the future? Yeah, perfect. Yeah, absolutely. Have a banner, have a flag, have a this.
Yeah.
We just didn't have that opportunity.
Yeah, I don't know how any of you feel about this, but I see Todd trying to center that symbol, and of course, when he was doing that, I saw an opportunity to sandwich with actually, you know, the county logo in the middle, the icon on the right, and then please pass this down. It's a way of showing solidarity, so it's no.
No, we
not
don't
allowed
want
to
to get
do
into
it?
that.
Okay.
what does it look like?
Okay, I'll describe it. So, it says same struggle, different difference. Oh, it's a circle. And it has a circle inside the circle. And on the outside of the circle, it says same struggle on the top, and on the bottom of the circle, different difference. And in between it has, and then the middle circle has 4 cutouts to combine the whole circle. On the top left, it says have a dream, which is Black Mountain with sunshine behind it. You can immediately tell it's like, I have a dream, Martin Luther King. Because of the key principles of disability justice are always solidarity with other protected classes. It's a core principle. So the second one is like a gender identity symbol, another one is a rainbow, and another one is a person in the wheelchair traditional symbol. But I don't know the politics and particulars around.
I think that, it's good and it's not maybe for this county committee. Sure. I do want to say that the one on the right that he's got up there now with the wheelchair with all the things inside the room and the, individual's legs is great. It is predominantly somebody in a wheelchair though.
Well, I think that's more on the iconic symbol. I think that's, you know, I don't want to discount what you're saying, but.
I mean, I like it, but it's just, if people don't really look at it real close, you can see,
And this is only
rather
just,
than the square thing, which Jessica brought up, which I think is, you know, you don't just, the wheelchair's in there, but it's a tiny square with the other squares.
I think the one with the wheelchair with everything in it, though, is more inclusive of more types of.
It is, it
It's,
is.
it
I like
includes
the idea.
broader,
yeah.
it's broader than, and I think it speaks to a broad array of disabilities,
And I think it's,
even though it's in the wheelchair outline.
and I think it's pretty modern and
It
you know,
is.
updated. So, and again, I don't want to squash anybody's voice, but in the interest of time,
I vote for this. I make a motion to take this
okay, do we have a second?
second tablecloth.
I second.
Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Well,
All those-
hold on, because, we've got the input from the committee, but we also want to make sure that we are following up or following according to what
So-
page is that?
So we're just voting on you moving it forward. That's what we're doing.
Yeah,
Got it. That there are, what page is that?
So page 10 would be, so there's two parts to it. The county communications has set formatting. So the first point that they made was the middle one. Whoops, sorry,
Oh.
go back. The middle right, where you see the logo, and then County of San Diego, a line, then Committee for Persons with Disabilities. But then if you go to page,
It's right here. Is this it here?
yes, so the way that County Communications described it to me, you'll have the County of San Diego symbol, that line, and then the or the committee's symbol, and then to the right will be the text. That's the combo of the two.
Shout out to ABC 10.
So again, I don't want to quash anybody's voice, but in the interest of time, vacancy reminders. This list is still the same as I understand. We have a vacancy.
D4 has one now.
D4 has one, thank you.
They approved
Yay.
Mindy McKenzie last night.
Yay.
Oh, wait, we got an approval?
Yes,
Okay, so D1 still has 2 vacancies, D2 has 1, D3 has 1, D4 has 1, and D5 has 1. So that's just for edification. I'm gonna move to agenda 8 for new business, and a report by the BOS, sorry, my bad.
I have started to work on that. It's basically a cut and paste of all of our agenda, all of our minutes. To try to format it in a way that it talks about the presentations we had, it talks about the,
You have a vote if you want to,
the work that,
A vote in one.
for the bylaws. So
we're not gonna get to that.
Yeah, because we
I
still
have,
have to.
my friend is, she's got.
Okay,
And I don't think we're gonna get to that.
We still have a forum if she leaves.
We
okay.
can, but why would you make it later?
Okay, fine.
Because it's supposed to end at 5. And that's.
I know, no, I know. It's 5 to 5.
All right. So, annual report you're working on?
Yes.
Okay, Live Well Advanced Outreach.
That's basically, once they, I haven't seen anything yet, but once they put out the word for how to participate in the Live Well event in November, I'm gonna provide that to the committee, and then, you all will be able to request the, at least having a booth or whatever.
Yeah.
participation.
Did we find the person, or not did we find the person, do we have somebody from the Office of Emergency Services that is going to come talk to us about flood emergency and fire preparedness, because we're in the season?
Right, we have not, scheduled them for the August event, for the August meeting. But that's the outreach I'm waiting to hear back.
Okay, great. So, here's my question really for the committee. So agenda 9, of course, is for the bylaws. What? Let's start discussion. I mean, we do have 5 minutes, right? This is kind of the last thing. So I think we should at least, honor Jeanette's due diligence and hard work, and at least do some comments on it, so that if she has any feedback from everyone, then
But you're doing that after 5 o'clock, you're gonna.
it's not 5 o'clock yet.
I know it's like, what, 2 minutes?
No, it's fine till.
Last time, so the older, as we mentioned, the older version got attached, not the newer version. We did get to the, up to, last time we got up to,
You added secretary,
Article, yeah,
Yeah.
5 subcommittees.
right? That's where we were.
We were talking about, types of subcommittees, standing committee. This was the same. That would have been sent out before.
Sorry.
All right, I would like to request silence of all cell phones at the next meeting.
Yeah.
Well, it was almost 5 and I'm trying to get to,
No, I know.
Well,
I had a list.
I know.
I can't like. And
No,
I,
I think she was saying is it happened a couple times while you're sitting up here. So no big deal. Just next time, make sure that's
For everybody.
that's right. Okay, sorry, go ahead.
So we have standing committees, which include the executive committee, which is the chair and vice chair and secretary, I would assume, right? If we
Yes.
add. I can change that. It shall be the duty and responsibility of the executive committee to make recommendations to committee members on matters discussed. Relating to or affecting the activities of the committee. General counsel thought the use of the term activities was vague. The executive committee usually has specific assignments. This seems to say items before this committee should be considered by the committee. Is that the intent? If so, why?
Can you just say conducting business or something instead of that?
So have it say, it shall be the duty and responsibility of the executive committee to make recommendations to committee members on matters discussed by the executive committee relating to or affecting the business of the committee and to report any action taken.
That's fine.
Yep.
And then the other, is the nominating committee. And then the coordinating committee, I don't know that we would ever get to this point because we're just not large enough to have like a committee of the chairs of the committees.
No.
I think that whole thing, but it's in here.
Now,
The vice chair shall act as the chair. Council note, vague. So we fixed that. Special committee task forces. Ad hoc committees, special committees, task forces, and subcommittees, generally temporary in nature, shall be established as necessary. Committee reports also, I'm just sort of glancing over this, all subcommittees shall report at regular meetings. The committee may select from its membership of the general public, subcommittee chairpersons, and or members to direct studies, conduct research, or make recommendations on committee activities. The AI said, consider adding language to ensure diversity and inclusion in subcommittee appointments.
I think we talked about that last time and it was
We didn't think that was
almost a
necessary.
non-starter, yeah.
Okay. Let's take that one out. The purpose and scope of each subcommittee shall be included in any motion to form a subcommittee and incorporated into the committee's meeting minutes.
And I think we had this conversation about the purpose and scope. I think we were gonna leave it vague.
Yeah, I think it's just, the process is we
Yeah.
come up with a
Talk
need,
about purpose and scope.
Inside, when
That's
you
fine.
craft.
Yeah.
we
Yeah,
form it, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's sufficient.
because I mean, there's so much it could be, there's no point in limiting,
Exactly.
yeah, okay.
I don't understand this Rosenberg rules of order.
Councils, we've always used Robert's rules of orders.
And council didn't have an issue with Roberts. He basically said, well, we prefer.
I've never
Rosenberg.
heard of Rosenberg. I only know Robert.
I think I'm not gonna pay attention to that because I don't understand it.
So on the consideration of time. I don't want to leave too many people past 5 o'clock,
And they will be kicking us out.
and they
Yeah.
may be kicking us out. So, everybody's okay with that. I'm gonna table that for next time, but thank you for adding at least some comments. So we got another page or two down.
Yeah.
Great.
I will I will not be here next month. But I will send these updates and another copy out so that it can be discussed and voted on, if it's ready in August.
Perfect. We're just a couple minutes past 5 o'clock. I appreciate everybody being here. If anybody was online, I appreciate you being here as well. Thank you, Todd and Katie, for your assistance. And this is gonna adjourn this meeting, and the next one is August 21st. Thanks, everybody.
No, I don't think Michelle or something.
Did you sign it? Oh, mileage.
Can I just write
Present.
present
Yeah.
for Michelle?
Yeah.
Mexican food for my
Oh my God.
husband who's leaving